you imagine?
Jesus.
Okay, we're good.
We're good?
Okay, does anyone need a drink or anything? You better hit.
Hi, everybody, and welcome.
Can you imagine?
Table where people talk about stuff.
Can you imagine?
I knew that was going to happen. It was just a joke.
I should probably start this camera over here.
Welcome to episode 34 of Nights at the Round Table. Today we are discussing the book Doorways in the Sand by Roger Zelazny. Yes, I got that right. And there's only two of us today, so I'm going to start with Eric's general impression of the book.
I had first read this over 20 years ago, so my vague memories of being a teenage boy, this book was the greatest thing I had ever read at the time. Rereading it, it doesn't hold up quite as well, but it's a fun, light read.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a good little book. It's fun, it's light, but it's not hyper involved. It's not one of the books that I would list on my favorites or never lend out to anyone for fear of it getting permanently borrowed or damaged in some way.
Yeah, it's dropped on my list.
Yeah, aww. That's sad. But it's a good book, and I enjoyed it, and there's some very funny moments in it that I quite enjoyed. For example, the wombat and the kangaroo. Being from Australia, that tickled my funny bone. And actually, the thing, I'm sure I read this when I was younger, but don't remember it well, because I read about the wombat and the kangaroo, and I'm like, this is really, really, really familiar.
But that was the whole book for me. All I had remembered was the guy who can never graduate, who doesn't want to graduate because he's going to lose his money.
Yeah.
To the point where 4 years ago I didn't know which book it was, and I kept searching it on Google, and I couldn't figure out what it was. It wasn't until I started recommending books for this podcast that I looked through, which Zelazny haven't I read yet? Oh, wait, that's the book!
Yeah. I appreciate the permanent student.
That's something I think a lot of us can feel after we've graduated.
After we've graduated. Well, see, no, if money was no object, I'd still be in university.
Me too.
Just because there's so much fascinating stuff to go through. But he was just dodging graduation because...
Money.
Because inheritance money. For a man who wasn't actually dead, as it turns out. Spoiler alert.
The book was definitely absurd in a lot of spots.
Oh, yes.
One of the things that I've always disliked about Zelazny's writing is that he loves to try to set the mood with disjointed sentences.
Thank you, yes, I thought I was the only one.
It's so annoying! I end up reading them 5 times going, okay, I don't understand. Oh, I'm not supposed to. It's a mood thing. And he does that in a lot of his books.
Oh, does he? So, because at the start of every chapter there's this surreal, disjointed part, and I'm like, I got used to it. But for the first, I think, 4 chapters, I'm like, I don't know what is going on.
Yeah.
This is annoying.
And in this book, because it was written originally as a serialized thing for a magazine.
Oh, okay.
He starts at the end, and then a flash. At the beginning is the end, and then he works his way back to where you were. So you're reading a 5-page chapter, and then all of a sudden he's in another part of the world doing something else. And as a serialized story, great. As a novel, I want to throttle someone. I don't mind going back and forth. Just do it coherently.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. A lot of it felt a bit like a Dali painting or an Escher drawing.
Or an episode of the last season of Lost.
Or that. Were you equally as disappointed?
No, actually, I kind of like this last season finale sort of went, okay, that makes sense to me.
Really?
Yeah, but everything up to then was kind of boring.
Oh, well, there you go.
But also for this, at times I was reading it and I'm going, why am I thinking of Waiting for Godot? I don't know if you've read the play.
No.
It's an absurdist play about 2 guys waiting for Godot, and I think it's supposed to be, wow, this is a long time ago that I studied it, so it's supposed to be sort of like a waiting for God type thing.
Okay.
And this just had some really absurd moments where you're like, what the heck is going on? A drunken donkey at a party being ridden by half-naked women?
Well, see, that sounded like a Bacchus party to me.
Yes, it really did. Actually, like in Fantasia, Bacchus is riding a little donkey around.
It's been a long time since I've run.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
What did you think of the protagonist?
I liked him, but again, it's hard for me to get into books that are written from the first person perspective. Generally speaking, I mean, they can be enjoyable, but it's hard for me to be absorbed by them in the way that I am for some reason into third person. So yeah, I liked him. I mean, he was. I get the motive for being an eternal student, and that I thought he was very clever, but I didn't really dive into this book the way that I've been absorbed by other books. So yeah, he was alright.
He was a typical Zelazny character.
Oh yeah? I haven't read any other Zelazny, so...
I've read him extensively, and they're usually hyper-intelligent males who smoke and drink a lot, high action, and who usually start the book completely confused as to what's going on.
Oh, okay, so... well,
sometimes
to be
they end the
fair,
book that way, too.
I would be completely confused as to what was going on too, what with starstones and aliens and people
thugs.
trying to kill you for no reason, and
Weird voices in your head,
random wombats that talk.
black cats trying to screw you over. Spoiler, sorry. It was well written. It could have used an editor, because it wasn't edited at all. He wrote it and he submitted it right
Oh,
away.
well, that explains why fountain was spelled with a PH at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I looked at the word and I turned to my flatmate and I'm like, Jasmine, have you ever seen the word fountain spelled with a PH before? She's like, no, I don't think that's a word. I'm like, maybe there's some sort of context I'm missing. Maybe it's an obscure spelling for some specific type of fountain or something.
There were more typos and mistakes than in a D&D book.
I'm going to assume that's a lot.
Wizards
We
of the
have
Coast
laughter in the audience, so yeah.
Sorry to Wizards of the Coast, but the books tend to be terribly edited for typos.
Oh, really?
'Cause they're pumped out so quickly.
Oh.
Not the rule books, the actual
The book
books.
The novelizations.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the joke is that they tend to...
Oh. So much stuff I don't know.
One thing that... I think it's a Zelazny thing. I think he might have really, really liked Hemingway. Because it sort of has that boys club Hemingway feel to it.
That's
The women
true.
suck.
Well, they're hardly present.
Exactly.
There was Ginny, who
I
ran
don't-
away at one point and then also slept with the protagonist.
Yeah, she didn't... yeah.
She didn't really figure.
And there was Mary, who was the typical, almost shrewish wife / damsel.
Yeah, well, and not even, you don't even tell if she's a shrewish
I don't
wife,
think she
'cause you
speaks.
She doesn't speak.
No.
Except for, I'm okay,
Yeah.
while being kidnapped.
And that's my biggest complaint about Zelazny in general, is his women have always been weak.
Oh, okay.
What do you think about the style? This is what I would
I-
call urban sci-fi, or what they called in the 70s new wave science fiction,
Oh,
which is
okay.
where they sort of melded science fiction and fantasy. It was a reaction to hard sci-fi like Asimov, where everything must have a absolute calculable answer to everything.
Oh.
Well, this is sort of like
Well,
I want aliens, but let's whitewash it with magic stones that talk to people.
Well, it wasn't really a magic stone, was it? No, it was
Well, it was a computer, but there's no
computer,
real...
like a
there was no real science.
nanovirus or something. Well, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Like,
They described it as a giant virus computer thing. But
yeah.
what do you think of that style of book? Have you read any?
You know, I don't mind it so much because I read a lot of fantasy, so suspension of disbelief is not difficult for me. And I'm not really up to date with the most modern science or technological advances either. So I can't nitpick any book based on the science. So I didn't mind it at all. But stylistically, he had some really beautiful language. But it was most of the book was really choppy, which was tough for me because you have these beautiful passages and I'm like, oh, that's lovely. And then the next 3 paragraphs are all chopped up and I'm like, what? Oh, damn it.
There's one existential philosophical speech at the beginning from his professor guy.
Yeah, and then at
on
the end again,
church-
right?
yeah,
on the
church again.
rooftop.
And I read it, and it is the longest monologue I've read in a long time. Maybe 2-3 pages, one big block of text, and it was beautiful. And then afterwards, you're sort of like, what's going on?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like he has fever dreams of awesome writing, and then goes back to thinking, oh no, this is supposed to be an action adventure, not anything important. Go.
What? See, here's the thing though. You can have an action adventure book that has
Yes.
major moralistic,
Oh, absolutely.
really deep things to say. So I think maybe he shortchanged himself by not going into that a bit more.
And it might have been because of the deadline. If he was writing it serially, he probably had a
that's
deadline. He has to hurry up and give it in.
That's true.
But according to Wikipedia, which is the greatest source ever,
No,
It
it
was-
is not. As an academic, it is not.
I was being sarcastic.
Good.
He said it was one of his top 5 favorite works of his books.
Well, I can see. I think it's a fun book to read.
It is. And it must have been fun to write.
It must have been fun.
I can imagine him sitting at a typewriter chuckling to himself.
Yeah. Well, there were a couple of moments that made me chuckle. So yeah.
Was there, there was something else I want to ask. How about you?
You know, I actually, this is one of the few books where I made 0 notes on, other than like a couple of typos that I saw.
Send it to the editor. The book's not in print, but I'm sure they will care.
Yeah, really. But it was, because it was just sort of it was an okay book that was fun to read. It didn't impart anything overly deep or meaningful. It didn't touch me in any grand way. It's one of those books that I would read, enjoy, and then forget about. Sorry, Mr. Zelazny.
Or you'll remember one part of it and think that part is super
Yeah.
awesome, and then 20 years
The
later
talking
reread
wombat.
it. Yeah.
Because I was chuckling all the way through, like the wombat and the kangaroo bit. And also when the kangaroo randomly showed up in the hospital.
What did you think of a lot of the science fiction that I've read that is on Earth tends to be aliens, they're gonna kill us. What did you think of the whole political aspect of the aliens as opposed to just aliens here to invade?
See, I really, really, really liked the idea of the Starstone being just part of a large cooler chain. And that's because I'm an anthropology geek, and the cooler chain just makes me really, really, really happy.
There's a lot of really interesting anthropology sections. Which
There are, and yes, that's what kept me reading really sometimes, because sometimes the passages were just what? So I liked that aspect of it, and I liked that there was a federation of aliens.
And I like that it wasn't a overarching evil or good federation. It sounded almost parliamentary.
Yeah, exactly, like the UN. It was basically, and that some aliens were more powerful when it came to swaying votes, and other alien races were not. And so there was all sorts of these little political plays, which you don't really examine in the book, but they still have their effect on the actions in the book. In fact, it's the whole reason for.
And they are some of the more interesting parts. Zelazny is amazing at writing political stuff.
Yeah.
His big series, The Chronicles of Amber, is literally...
Oh, that was him!
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's literally a family politics from book 1 to book 10.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of my favorite series.
Ah, okay.
Still not very great women in it, though.
God damn it. Well, when was this book published?
74 or 76.
76, okay. There is generally in a lot of the older books a lack of decent women.
Unless they were written by
Unless,
women.
well, yeah, yes, I guess. I'm trying to think. The only one I've read written by a woman was Lieutenant Darkness for this, by Ursula
really?
Le Guin, yeah. And
I'll have to put some more in the bowl.
yeah, the main characters were androgynous, so.
Yeah.
But it did bring up a bunch of interesting points. Which, you know, this book didn't, because it was just a fun read and nothing.
It was fluffy. with a
Yes.
teeny tiny bits of.
With-
I don't like
with
calling books
flashes.
fluffy because it makes you feel like it's not a good book.
Well, no, because sometimes you need those fluffy books. Like
There's fluffy, and then there's a book that's just entertaining. And the only example I can come into my head that is a book that is very entertaining, but I wouldn't call fluffy, I can't mention here. So,
why not?
because it's yours.
Oh. Oh yeah, it's against the rules. I was gonna say I wrote a book designed just to be fluffy, fun,
But
ridiculous.
this is fluffy, fun, ridiculous. Yours did have themes, and as an ex-English major, I could plot out certain things that you might have subconsciously put in there.
Oh.
There was
Well, then.
more substance than
Are
I
you
thought
talking
there was in
about
here. Yes.
Oh. Okay. Thank you, girl.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the biggest peeve I have with this is the smoking. Every third line, he's lighting a cigarette.
Yeah, dude's
It's
a
like,
chain
oh,
smoker. How is he not
God.
dead? Yeah.
Well, the Starstone's going to heal him from now on.
Well, that's
But
true. Yes.
It's interesting the things that he gets rid of in a 30, 40 years in the future that he doesn't get rid of. Like, money's still normal, cars are still the same, there's still burger joints, smoking everywhere. To the point where he smokes in non-smoking rooms. He's
Yeah.
like, take that sign down, stupid hospital.
Yeah, I'll smoke where I want.
Is there any oxygen in this room? No? Well, I'm gonna smoke. It's like, okay.
Yeah, yeah. It is actually, the smoking in this is ubiquitous. Everyone smokes. The aliens smoke.
Yeah.
Which actually created several hilarious images of like a
wombat smoking.
a wombat smoking, a seeing eye dog smoking.
The only one who didn't was the kangaroo.
Was the kangaroo.
He kept saying, that's gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Are
they
you
would
gonna
make
quit?
fun of him.
Yeah.
What did you think of the psychologist slash
The tree,
telepath? Yeah, the giant.
slimy tree thing.
It was sort of like a praying. Venus flytrap. Venus. He describes it as opening up. It's like an 8-foot tree opening up to eat him, and its way of getting his psyche evaluated by scaring him to death.
By scaring him. I mean, it was cool.
But that was
But-
pretty much it.
That was pretty much it. It's like one of those. It needed to be a weird alien life that nobody would guess at. We need some sort of sentient plant. Is essentially
That
what this
is what it felt like.
yeah,
Okay, we've got a wombat, a kangaroo, a donkey. Later we're gonna have a cat. We've got a dog. What do we need? A tree!
Yeah, these are all sort of humanoid things, or at least, what am I thinking of? With centralized nervous systems? We need something.
Mammalian?
Yeah, mammalian. Yeah, yeah.
I wish we could have seen the aliens. I guess that's sort of the fun of this, was that you didn't get to see the aliens without their costume.
Yeah, just their costumes.
They describe the costumes as sort of like rubber and fur. Because at the end when he tries to grab the cat, he just ends up with a rubber and fur
Tail.
And you wonder what alien could look so much like a cat that he could put on a cat costume.
If he looked so much like a cat, would he need a cat costume?
Well, he didn't have a tail.
Oh, well, just glue one on.
Yeah.
You don't need the entire costume. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Actually, I didn't even think about it. Did they have shrinking technology or something? And
Maybe they weren't actually mammalian at all, and they were just like jelly. They could fill out the suit like a slime. They're all gelatinous cubes.
It makes you wonder, how do they power their locomotion then? If they're just jelly, and there's no muscle magic, exactly. So this is very light on the science.
Light on the science, heavy on the philosophy and anthropology.
Yes, I
And
love
smoking.
the anthropology and smoking. I love the anthropology stuff. Is Zelazny, is he from Europe?
I think he's American, but I could be
Is he
wrong.
American? Because I'm thinking that might account for all the smoking. Because
It does not say.
I will.
I'm fairly certain he's American.
Okay. Well.
But I mean, American growing up in the 50s, 60s.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, smoking was pretty ubiquitous over here as well. I don't know what else to say about the book because honestly, I have 0 notes other than a fair number of typos, which I can now cross off.
I didn't take notes either. I was being pulled out of the book so often from the the choppiness.
Yeah, for the
that
bouncing back and
I didn't
forth.
want to have to try. Like, it took me way longer than a 200-page book should have.
Oh,
Because
really?
I could not get into it.
Yes.
And I think it might have been the lack of a continuous narrative.
Yeah.
I don't mind switching characters, it's just going back and forth in time, unless it's a Doctor Who time travel type thing.
Well, I don't mind it so much, but it really felt like it was being done for impact only. Like it didn't forward the story at all. It was just for,
Yeah.
you know, trying. It's like every chapter, the first paragraph was a hook, when really you only needed that at the start of the book, and the rest.
Yeah, there's 12 chapters.
Yeah, so
12 or more.
12
books
or
like
more
that.
hooks. Yeah.
In 200 pages.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. So if you were to give this out of 5 stars.
Mostly for nostalgia, I'll give it 3.
Aww. Yeah, I was bouncing between 3 and 3.5, but I think 3. I mean, it's a fun book. I don't regret reading it at all.
No.
It's just it wasn't Frank Herbert. It didn't pull me in and keep me there. Yeah.
You might have better luck with the Amber series.
With the Ember series, okay, I'll give that a shot. All right. New book time. No. Oh, okay.
Bitten by Kelly Armstrong. Ooh. They have a TV show based off it.
Do they?
Yes, very good.
Ooh. Well, there we go. So in a fortnight, we'll be reviewing the book Bitten by Kelly Armstrong. If you would like to join the conversation, leave a comment down below. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.
Can you imagine?
I'm going to kill you.